Good morning. It's a great honour, great pleasure to be here. Boris, the Mayor, asked me to send his very best wishes for your conference and hopes it's a great success. I'd like to focus on three areas: global, regional and local. And I think all are very important when discussing London's current and future situation. Globally, London is seen as a global city, but I think we have to recognise the challenges that are to be faced in the future and the importance of London continuing to adapt and change to remain a global city. I think it will easily do that. But just to highlight the issues, in the next 20 years, it's likely that two-thirds of global growth will come from the top 600 cities in the world. If you were to take the top 600 cities in the world now, just under 160 of them are in the West. In 20 years' time, only about 20 of them will be in the West. What you are seeing is the emergence of new cities, cities that are growing strongly across the globe. Many of these cities are able to implement smart technology. They're new cities with new housing, new transport, new infrastructure. The cities that succeed in the future, whether small, medium or large like London, are those that will have to adapt and change, those that play to their strengths, and very importantly, those that continue to anticipate the future. The great thing is that London has done all of these in the past, and the hope is it does it in the future. Earlier this year, Deloitte, one of the many important consultancies based here in London, did a very interesting analysis saying where are the top key global workers, the mobile workers, located. And it came up with a very interesting conclusion, that London leads the way, and by a considerable distance, in Europe. Globally, the city with the most mobile, high-skilled workers was London with 1.5 million. Next was New York with 1.2 million. Then Los Angeles with about 800,000. Then Boston, around 600,000. And Hong Kong, around 500,000. So we clearly are Europe's global city. Interestingly, despite a financial crisis, the financial sector and the City of London has done pretty well in the last 5 to 6 years. Quite frankly, we should call it a banking crisis. Banks are being addressed, the issue of banking regulation, etc. But if you take out the banks, obviously you can't, but if you take it out, the banks, and you look at the rest of the City of London, insurance, legal, professional, business, consultancy, and general financial services, they have all done well. But it's important to say that London, whilst it's specialised in one respect with the city being so important, it's also very diversified. Science and the science base continues to grow in London. The tech base continues to grow in London. Creative industries are not always measured properly, but are a key part of the London story. London basically is doing well, but is also doing very well within Europe. It's not often highlighted how much Europe needs the UK and how much Europe needs London. We always tend to look at the story the other way round. Last year, the European Commission did an analysis of the most competitive regions in Europe. 3 of the most competitive, 3 in the top 5, are in the south of England. Surrey and Sussex in 5th place. Buckinghamshire, how often do we talk about Buckinghamshire in these places? Buckinghamshire, Bedfordshire and Oxfordshire in 3rd place, and then London also in the top 5. So the south of England leverages off and feeds into London. So first part of my story is about the global competition and the need to ensure that London continues to position itself globally. But second part is the regional story. I grew up in Kilburn, actually, and I've always been amused in some respects by the continued focus, almost obsession in the UK with the north-south divide. The reality is that all the challenges you see in the so-called north, you see in London. It's far more complex than saying it's a north-south divide. All the cities of the UK have their good bits. All the cities of the UK, it seems, have their challenges. London is no different. 19% of people working in London are on less than the London living wage. 5 of the poorest boroughs in the country are in London. The cost of housing and of rent is an issue here like it is in many other cities. So those challenges are very apparent here. The good thing is that London is continuing to make headway on some of the key important issues. Particularly, there's been a major advance in London over the last decade or so on education. Education is one of the big challenges. In Britain, we tend to have a 2-tier system. The top end is incredibly good. London does very well, as does many other parts of the country, with basically clusters centred around universities. But it's at the bottom end, in terms of basic skills, that the UK needs to do more. More jobs are being created. Admittedly, not all the jobs are the best type of jobs, 0-hour contracts, part-time work, but even allowing for that, there has been a marked improvement. But also, in terms of working with other cities in the UK, it's important to say that London does dominate the UK in a way in which some other cities don't dominate major economies on the continent. Let's put it another way. There are many countries in Europe where the capital city dominates more than London dominates the UK. But when you look at the big countries, in Germany, Berlin is about 4% of the German economy. In France, Paris is less than 10% of the French economy. London is about 24% of the UK economy. One of the good things, since I've been working with Boris 18 months ago, apart from doing detail really well, one of the things that Boris is really keen on is strategic thinking along these key issues. Last year, there were 2 strategic reports prepared at City Hall. One was the 2020 vision about London. I'll come on to that in a second. The other was the Independent London Finance Commission under Tony Travers. It was a cross-party commission. And let me just highlight why it's important to address these issues that the London Finance Commission addressed about financing of cities. Since the late 60s, we have had a litany of reports in Britain about local finance. Britain, it seems to me, analyses problems better than anyone else, then never seems to read any of the reports. Since the late 60s, the Kilbraddon Commission, 69 to 73, Layfield Committee, 74 to 76, Local Government Finance Review, 86 to 93, the Balance of Financing Review, 2003-2004. All of these are pretty good, I tell you. The Lyons Report, nothing to do with me, 2004 to 2007. City Finance Commission, I'm almost finished, under Lipton, 2011. The Murley's Review in 2011, all looking at local finance. Basically, what Boris did last year was have a cross-party commission, and what's going on now is there's a city-centred campaign uniting Boris, the Lord Mayor, the 32 London boroughs, and also uniting London with the core cities across the UK. Birmingham, Bristol, Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, Nottingham and Sheffield. And it's about giving more finance to local cities and local areas to address some of their infrastructure and other needs. And that comes on to the third and final part, which leads into today's conference. The key for London in the future is to continue to create the enabling environment in which business will grow and in which investors, both domestic and international, will want to invest here. Last night, the Mayor had his annual London debate. 6 years ago, the focus was on issues such as transport and policing and crime. Last night, it was housing. London's trying to create an enabling environment. Crime has fallen sharply. Transport issues have been addressed. You've got Michelle Dix from Transport for London talking later. She's fantastic. She'll talk about what's happening there. But there is more that needs to be done. Housing. There is a 30 to 40-year legacy issue here. Britain doesn't do long-term very well. As I indicated, we analyse, we identify the problem, then we don't address it. Housing is one of those issues. Not only is there a legacy issue, there's also rapid population growth. London's population is growing 100,000 per year. On top of that, we have strong economic growth in coming, not just now, but likely to see it in coming years. So housing, both affordable and available for everyone, is part of the story. Power has been mentioned. Also, the environmental issues have been mentioned. Connectivity, and I'll just take another 1 or 2 minutes, is very important. Transport within London is being addressed by expanding the tube network, by planning to have more cross-Thames links. connecting the outer boroughs so not everything comes into the centre. But the airport is a big issue. The UK needs a 4-runway hub airport. More cities in the UK now use Amsterdam Airport as their hub than they use Heathrow. The Airport Commission basically puts 3 options on the table: the in the grain, not the Boris Island, Heathrow or Gatwick. Quite frankly, Gatwick doesn't answer any of the questions. You can't build 4 runways at Gatwick. The question has to be whether you go for Heathrow, where it is now, or what I would call Heathrow East in the Isle of Grain. The Mayor has made it clear about the potential, if we go eastward, to really diversify, develop and expand London to the east, and also create a logistics hub. Last year, a new London port was built with private money. Dubai ports, north of the Thames, 1.5 billion was spent on it. You can have a logistics hub as well as a transport link. And finally, it's about having a vision. We keep talking about Europe in the UK. In 20 years' time, the UK will have a bigger population than Germany, 20 to 25 years' time. If we make just small inroads to our productivity gap, which I think we are already doing, then the UK will overtake Germany as the biggest economy in in Europe. London has a key role to play in that, as long as we do the 3 I's, as long as we continue to invest, innovate, and address our infrastructure. Thank you.